Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trip Tales, the podcast where real people share their real vacation stories to give you destination inspiration and practical planning tips. A couple quick reminders. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, simply email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I will get you on the schedule. Also, I'm so excited to report that the podcast is growing and more people are listening to it with each passing month. I'm over here working my booty off trying to get some sponsorships and cool brands to partner with the show and maybe offer y'all some discount codes. But at the moment, I still haven't really landed any. So currently, the best way to support the show is to buy me a coffee on my buymeacoffee.com support page. This is a cool website that was created for podcasters like me so that a listener could tangibly show their support. And so the podcaster can pay the grocery bill. The link is in the show notes, or if you have a good memory, it's just buymeacoffee.com/Kelsey Graves. And I give every buymeacoffee.com supporter a shout out in the following week's episode. Speaking of, a huge thanks to JC Chambers for buying me 3 coffees. JC was a guest a while back on the Alaskan Adventure episode. It's episode 32. Thank you so much, JC. You are amazing. And like I always say, I literally did a happy dance when it came through. Okay, today we are going on an exciting international adventure to Disneyland Paris. My guest today, Brittani, emailed me and shared that she and her family of 5 are originally from America, but currently live in the Netherlands. And they have been to Disneyland Paris twice, and she wants to share all about it today. So welcome, Brittani. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Kelsey. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. I've listened to probably every episode of yours, so I'm excited to be one. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, you are so sweet. How did you find the podcast over there in the Netherlands?
So it's so funny. So again, being here in the Netherlands, we love traveling. And so I love listening to travel podcasts. Being a busy mom, it's just, again, another way to kind of just escape the laundry that day. And so I actually searched for Disney's Aulani,
Yep.
looking for a podcast. And yours came up. It popped up. I think it was like maybe the most recent episode about Aulani. So I was super excited. So I started listening and I realized that it was a podcast about real people that are going on trips. And I was hooked. I was like, this is perfect because you never know when you go on the Instagram or Facebook or something and you see like an influencer, you never know if, are they being paid to go here? Is it legit? All that stuff. So, yeah, that's how I found you. And I love it. I love the concept.
I love to hear that. That's kind of why I started it, because I also am a podcast lover and a travel lover. And so I would search in the podcast app for different destinations, just like you're saying. And I would also look at the most recent one because I'm like, oh, well, if this one was recorded in 2024, then it's the most accurate information. And so that's kind of why I
Exactly.
started it, because I had listened to a couple other podcasts that were just like someone telling their story about different subjects. And I was like, what if it was just travel, but people just sharing their trip, like, how they got there, where they stayed. And so far, it seems to be resonating with people. And I love it too, because every episode I'm like, ooh, and it's not even like I might necessarily go to that place like next year, but I feel like I've wrapped my brain around the destination and could like start planning. But anyways, I start
Yes.
every episode with a rapid fire get to know you. So tell everyone where you live. Well, I guess I already did that, but tell everyone about your family and your expat story real quick.
So we live in the Netherlands. We live about 30 minutes outside of Amsterdam. I feel like Amsterdam's the one city that everybody kind of knows about in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Um, and we have been here for almost 3 years. We moved from Phoenix, Arizona, and just for my husband's job. I have my husband, of course, and then we have 3 little kids. I have a 7-year-old in second grade, and I have a recently turned 3-year-old, and I have an 18-month-old who
You are
was
busy
born
over
in the
in the
Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Oh my gosh, we are busy. And yes, my youngest was actually born here in the Netherlands, which is a total other story. But it's great. It's really fun. been here just to travel. That was really our main reason for moving from the US, just to give our kids that different look on life and just see how really big the world is, you know? And it's been great. My son goes to an international school and he has kids in his class from, I mean, every country you could think of, and they have different languages that they introduce, and he's learning Dutch, and it's very cool experience for sure. Of course, there's always downsides as well, while you're
Yes.
learning and you're trying to integrate into a new culture, there's always mishaps, but again, for the most part, it's been a good adventure.
I just love to hear that. Way to go. And I know the listeners who all love travel are going to be excited to hear that. I'm probably like a little jealous that you get to travel so many places. From your email, it sounds like you guys are getting a lot of travel in. You said so far you've traveled to Scotland, England, Belgium, Germany, Mallorca. That's on my list. Mallorca, Spain, France, and of course, you live in the Netherlands, so you've explored all of that. And that is such a huge perk of living in Europe because there are so many amazing destinations at your fingertips.
Right. And so close and not a crazy plane ride once you're already here, so that's
Right.
helpful.
In your email to me, you shared that Disneyland Paris is beautiful and such a cool experience, but that it is very different than the experiences at the other US based parks. You are a lifelong Disney fan because you grew up in Southern California, going to Disneyland multiple times a year, and you want to share about the differences and some good things for people to know about Disneyland Paris. So let's get into Disneyland Paris. You said you've been twice, once in the spring of 2024 and then again at Christmas in 2024 to take in the holidays there, which I love anything holiday related. So let's start with how you typically get there. I actually had to Google this on Google Maps because I was like, I have no idea how far the Netherlands is from Paris, but it's about a
Yeah.
6 hour drive. So do you drive? Do you fly? What do you do?
So we have done two different ways of transportation, and especially because in Europe, our public transportation is pretty good. The first time we went, we took a train. We took the Eurostar from Rotterdam Central Station, which is just a city here in the Netherlands, straight to the Disneyland train station. What's really unique about Disneyland Paris is that it does have a its own designated train station. It's called the Marne-la-Vallée Chessy
Ooh,
train station.
fancy.
So I know, yeah, my French is not amazing, but
Well,
that
it's
is the
better than
name of
mine.
its train station. And right, it's like some of the pronunciation. It's really easy to get there from a lot of different destinations within Europe once you're already here. It's also really easy to get there from the Charles de Gaulle Airport on the train. Just as with every travel experience, there can be issues. So, of course, our very first time we went, it was our first big trip as a family of five. So, we got to the train station and we have all these bags. We have a double stroller, right? And sometimes train travel can be tricky if you have that much luggage, that many, bulky items. But we got on, everything was good. We made it to the very last stop before Disneyland Paris. And all of a sudden, the conductor comes on and says there's been a disturbance on the tracks. And we were like, oh no. Because at this point, we had a 6 year old, a 2 year old, and a 6 month old.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we didn't have our car seats with us. We didn't have anything because we were on the train, right? It's just straight through, easy, easy peasy. Well, of course, there was a disturbance on the track between the Charles de Gaulle Airport and the Disneyland station. And I was like, oh no. So we had to get off the train. They made everybody disembark, and we had to find a taxi in the Charles de Gaulle Airport. Not only just a taxi that would fit all of us and our, like I said, double stroller and luggage, but we also had to find one that would have car seats.
Yeah,
So
that's
needless to say,
challenging.
it was very challenging. But I mean, everybody was kind of going in the direction of the taxi. So, and it's very easy to figure that out, even in an international airport, even in a country that does not speak English as their first language. A lot of times there will be, a French sign. Oh, and then English is underneath. So we were able to find that, and then we got in the taxi. Had heard the news, so everybody was lining up, ready to take people. So instead of it being another like 5 minutes to Disneyland, it took us 45 minutes to drive there in this taxi. And so my husband and I were like, well, you know, we're gonna make it. We're gonna get there. The girls got to nap, a little bit extra in the car on the way there. So we just kind of took it as like a, all right, we're gonna
Yeah.
make it. We're gonna get
Look at
there.
the silver linings.
And right, what you have to do, especially again traveling with such young kids, it's always kind of like just go with the flow, as yeah, I know you know. So we were staying at the Disneyland Paris Hotel. It was beautiful. It was really, really simple once we arrived on the property. The other way we did go on the second time was we drove. Again, pretty easy. From where we are in the Netherlands. However, it was a bit long for my kids. My kid, 6 hours in the car was a little bit long for them. Road trips, they can be hit or miss. But I would still recommend the train, even though we had that disturbance. That's so rare for that to happen. I still recommend that because it is so easy and it takes you right there. I mean, you exit the train station and you're in the Disney Village, which is their version of like a downtown Disney or like a Disney Springs at Disney World.
That
That's
is
kind of
so
the
cool that there's a train station
yeah.
right there. For people that were maybe visiting Paris, I feel like over here people will take a trip to London or to Paris. Let's say you're in, downtown Paris. Approximately how long would it take by train to get to Disneyland Paris? Hey, Trip Tales listeners, I'll keep this short. If you're loving the podcast, leaving a review or buying me a coffee is the quickest way to show your support, and it will ensure that these amazing trip stories keep coming. Leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, or buy me a coffee at the link in the show notes, and I'll literally do a happy dance when it comes through. Okay, back to the show.
So that's super simple. I believe from the Gare du Nord train station, which is the main, kind of like the main train station in Paris. I think they've got two train stations, but that's kind of the main one that the Eurostar, even from London, for example, would come into. Google Maps is really helpful for this now, and it'll tell you like what train to take and like where the platform should be. It's about 40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
From,
And then
yeah.
I know you mentioned something about car seats. I haven't really like done train travel with my kids much now that I think about it. And my kids are out of car seats, which is like such a lifesaver once you're like traveling. But what
Oh,
do kids
yes.
just sit
Jealous.
just wherever they just like buckle up, or do you even buckle up? What do you do on a train when you're traveling with kids like from Paris to Disneyland Paris?
You have to purchase a seat if you're going your kid to sit there, or they can be kind of like an example of a lap child. So my 6-month-old at the time, she was just a lap child. You still have to count them, that they're going to be on the train, but that we didn't have to pay for her. And my youngest, or my middle one, I don't believe we paid for her either because she was 2 years old. So I believe it's 3 and under that you don't have to pay for. But we did select and give her like a seat. And yeah, there's no seat belts or anything. They just sit. And a lot of times you'll have, it's a kind of like a pod of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a table in the middle, which is really helpful because then they can kind of get out little toys, or they can get out their coloring or
Yes.
iPads or whatever and kind of set it down on there. Because our train from Rotterdam to Paris was supposed to be about 3.5 hours, I think. But yeah, my kids did pretty well. My again, traveling with babies is super easy because they just sleep and eat. But
Yeah.
toddlers, on the other hand, she was a little busy. But I walk into the bathroom or walking to go get a water bottle with dad or something, at the little cafe cart, she was fine.
But yeah,
So
it sounds so much better than plane travel, being able to get up and go to the cafe cart or being able to have that table. Like, I know it's not efficient for airline travel at all, but what a dream that would be to have like family pods where kids could move around and there could be some sort of table, that they could. I know we've got tray tables, but that's not really the same thing at all. But that would be so nice to have
oh
like
yeah, right.
facing seats on airplanes. We can dream.
Right, and it's just so much more space on a train. I know that sounds weird, but it really does have more space than those tiny little coach airplane seats. I just flew
Yes.
back to the US not too long ago, and I was telling my husband, I was like, there is no way I'm flying coach anymore
Yeah.
because there's just no room. There's no room.
Yeah. I don't know if you watch White Lotus. Do you guys watch White Lotus?
No, I've been meaning to get into it.
Okay, it's
I
kind
really
of
want to get
intense.
into it.
This
I
season
feel like I'd like
actually
it.
is like quite
Okay.
intense. I would actually all the
Okay.
seasons are kind of intense, but there's a character this season who she is just like a Southern, she's like from South Carolina, and she's just like living this like very lavish, rich lifestyle. She has three little kids, and her husband is like coming into financial trouble, but she doesn't know it yet, and she just keeps going.
Oh
You
no.
know, if I couldn't live this way, I don't even know if I would want to live. She's like, I just wasn't made for a life that's uncomfortable. And all these travel content creators are creating like memes about it now, like you like wanting to fly,
Yeah.
not an economy anymore. It's just like, I'm just not sure I'm made for this. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Tell us about
exactly.
where you stayed in Disneyland Paris because you seemed pretty excited about the hotel.
Oh my gosh. I was very excited about this hotel. So it was under refurbishment for quite some time. I think it was several years. And it reopened officially in January of 2024. So I was telling my husband, we were kind of talking about this trip. We looked into the different hotels that they offered
Because
on the
how
Disney
many are
property.
there? How many hotels are there
Yeah,
on in Disneyland Paris that are like associated with the park?
they have Disneyland Hotel, which is their main hotel right at the entrance to Disneyland, which game changer. They have Disney Hotel New York, The Art of Marvel, which is super cool. It's kind of a New York theme, and of course, with Marvel superhero characters. They have Disney Newport Bay Club, which is a nautical kind of East Coast theme. A lot of the hotels do have an American style theme,
That's
which I
so
thought was really
funny.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting when I was looking and kind of deciding where we wanted to stay. And then the next one is the Sequoia Lodge, which their theme is they have a lot of like Bambi influences, and they have it's supposed to be like American national parks.
Okay.
And then they also have a Disney Hotel Cheyenne, which is a Wild West theme, so kind of like Toy Story-ish. That one's a little bit further away from the park, so they're either right at the entrance or you have to walk like 15, 20 minutes,
Okay,
which I
but lots
assume is
of
kind of similar
choices.
to. Yeah, and then they have two more choices after that. They have a Hotel Santa Fe, which is a Cars theme, and again, kind of that Wild West Arizona theme. And then they also have Davy Crockett Ranch cabins. I would assume it'd be kind of like that, the cabins at Disney World. Those are kind of like camping style. Like you can bring your dog and you can do like, bring an RV if you want, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's actually quite a few choices compared to where I usually go to Disney, which is in California. We've got like we had two hotels at for a while, and now there's the newest one there in Disneyland California. But yeah, there's tons of options.
So which one did you guys
But
choose and why?
well, we chose the Disneyland Hotel because it was newly renovated. It was a five-star hotel. It well is a five-star hotel, and it's right at the entrance to Disneyland Park. And when I say it's at the entrance, like you literally walk out of your hotel room and you make a right, and you have this designated entrance for hotel guests. And I would say it's maybe like 20 feet, and like you just walk in. It's
That's
fabulous.
amazing. Especially with your double
Yeah.
stroller and your family of five. You're like, just turn right and here we are.
Totally. And that's kind of what sealed the deal. My son kind of wanted to do the Marvel one because, of course, he loves superheroes. And I actually thought that one kind of looked cool. And it was like half the price of the Disneyland Hotel one. But, ultimately, like we just decided, the girls are going to have to come back and nap. And this is just going to be optimal for us to kind of experience everything. This renovation was just gorgeous. I mean, you walk into the lobby and there's this gorgeous like crystal chandelier that has like a castle, and it's glimmering and it's shimmering and it's just so pretty. It's very light colors, pastels, pinks and greens and gold and silver, and just very royal. That's kind of their theme, is that everybody feels like a princess and a prince when they come in. Just very elegant. It was just very well done, very, very gorgeous. And it also felt really European to me. A lot of the other hotels were strictly, American themed. And I was kind of like, well, I've been to most of those places. So let's stick with like the European one. Let's stick with the main one.
I love the description of that because it really does sound like Parisian. So if you are like going on a family trip to Paris, showing your kids Paris, doing the Eiffel Tower, that feels like it goes right along with that trip if you were going to go stay a couple nights at Disneyland Paris. It's like, and now, instead of going, I know that we can do the Cars and the Marvel, but like you said, there's so much of that in America. This feels kind of like quintessential to Disneyland Paris and special, which I'd be like, we're staying there as well.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's double the
Yeah.
price.
And it also had I love when you walk into a hotel and you get the scent of it as well, and it just smells really nice. I love a hotel that smells really nice. So this one, it just had this really lovely smell to it. It reminded me of, yeah, it was very Parisian. I felt like I was in Paris. It felt different than any, specifically the Disneyland Hotel in California that I've been to. It felt so different than that and just really elevated. And I loved that. So it was really, really nice. As you walking into, they have like a grand staircase. And a lot of times as you're entering, and of course, depending on the day and depending on availability of the cast members, I'm sure, but they'll have a prince or a princess that are, waving to you as they come in and as you're walking down hallways. And it's just very, very immersive from stepping in at the beginning. So that's lovely.
I love that. Describe the rooms and the theming of the rooms. And I mean, you had a baby with you, so I'm assuming it was pretty easy for all of you to stay in one room. But is it easy for a family of five with older kids to all stay in one room at this hotel?
Yes, I would think so. So I was very surprised. In the size of the hotel, we stayed in a superior family room both times. That's the basic one. Honestly, it says superior, but it's just
Yeah.
the one that you can book just normally. And it had two queen beds. And then we were able, with the two queen beds, to fit two, they call them cots, but baby cribs in the
Hmm.
room as well, which was really helpful. I was very pleasantly surprised in that it was just very spacious, and the bathroom had a tub shower combo, which for us is really helpful because the babies. And then it also had like a separate room for the toilet, and then it had a pull out couch, like a bench, and then you could lift up the cushion and then pull out the bed. So I think it would, if you're willing, your kids are willing to, one of them's willing to share a bed with another sibling, and then someone gets the pull out, I'd say it's totally doable with family of five, which again is very rare in Europe. So that's
Yeah.
nice.
That's awesome. Do you happen to
Yeah.
have how much these rooms cost? And it's probably in euros, and I don't even know how to do that translation in my head, but just so people know, like reference point, how expensive it is.
It's actually very close right now. I think it's a euro or one US dollar is equivalent to €1.08.
Oh,
So
great. Okay.
basically one for one.
Yeah.
So that's as of right now. So we never, you never know what happens in the future. But it's so interesting how Disneyland Paris does this. So they on the website, you have to book everything as a package. So you basically make your trip. You could say how many days you want to be there, how many's in your party, and what hotel you want to stay at. And then they break it down and they give you the price for that package. And then you can also select like a different hotel to kind of compare and contrast like how much it would be to stay at Art of Marvel versus the Disneyland Hotel. However, I did call because we had thought we wanted to just stay an extra night at the Disneyland Hotel and maybe not go to the parks. And so see if we could kind of separate that. And the cast member that I talked to, and they were very friendly. You can, same, as you were calling in the US, you would just call the international number for Disneyland Paris. And he was very kind, but he was like, yeah, it'll be about 1,300 euros if you do just for one night at the hotel just by itself. And I was like, okay, never mind.
Yeah. No, not interested. We'll get back on the
So
train.
they don't really make it easy for you to just stay there, if that
So
makes sense.
when
Because
you're
I think at
booking it, you're
any
kind of booking the whole thing. You're getting your park passes, you're getting all the stuff, and then you just see one total price. And that, because here there's a million different options of how you do stuff. You can go stay at a hotel and just stay the night in Disney World or Disneyland.
right.
So it sounds like they kind of want you to do the whole thing. It's like a big package deal.
Exactly. And again, you can speak to the cast members and but you have to call. Like there's no way to even book just the hotels on their website.
So do you know the number that you checked out with? I think both times you went, it was 4 nights.
So when you do the packages, when you do everything together, they do kind of I don't know if discount would be the right word, but
Yeah, it's like
they
a
bundle it
bundle. Yeah.
together. Exactly. So we did, it was actually 3 nights at the hotel, but 4 days in the parks. So, and it just automatically comes with Park Hopper, if you will. They don't really necessarily have that, but you can just go to either Disneyland Park or the Walt Disney Studios Park. Um, any day or anytime you want to. And we did, so yes, again, we did 3 nights, 4 days in the parks. And the first time we actually did a half board meal plan as well. And that just means that you have breakfast at your hotel along with, you can choose either lunch or dinner. So very similar to the meal plan at Disney World. Um, but yeah, we did that the first time, and I believe we paid around 5,500 euros for that. So yeah, it's not cheap by any
Yeah.
means, but again, I don't feel like it's overly priced because Disney is Disney, and you know that kind of going in when you're starting to plan your trip. You're like, okay, I got to get my Disney price hat on here.
Exactly.
So you don't have to pay for children under 3 years old, similar to in the United States. So that also helped us in the pricing department as well, because we were just paying for my husband, myself, and then our 7-year-old. So
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Good
that
to
was
know.
helpful. Yeah.
Staying at the hotel for just a few more minutes. So were the rooms as grand as the lobby and the rest of the hotel felt?
Yes, they were so pretty. And again, I am a Disney person, so I really appreciate theming, right? I really love the Disney princess theme, that aspect of it. And we walked into our room the first time and it was a Tangled theme. So they've got beautiful pictures on each of the bed, behind the beds, and they are all the scenes from the movie. And then just again that very like elegant style, like does kind of feel like you would be in a princess chamber, kind of that feel. Lots of pastels, silvers, golds, accents, that kind of stuff. Lots of pretty pinks and just really pretty details. I don't know, my husband was probably like, well, this is, it's nice, it's
Yeah.
fine, but I really appreciated it. I thought it was really beautiful. They also, what was really fun too, which I'm sure they do at a lot of Disney hotels as well in the US, but they had like on the TV as you checked in, it was like, welcome Foley family, like start your adventure or whatever. And my son got to like click on it and it did this whole little like song and dance and like opened up a book like it was our fairy tale adventure. And it was really
Cute.
cute. Like just, yeah, just those Disney touches that you're like, oh, okay, this is why we
Yes.
pay this, right?
Yes.
And just lovely amenities as well. It being France, they have lovely shampoos and conditioners and hand lotions and soaps that just I just think they smell amazing. I love Paris as well, and all the French toiletries were a big perk to me too. So
Yes, love that. And then you put in your notes that the next time you had a Beauty and the Beast theme. So it sounds like maybe they kind of have like some different princess theming throughout the rooms at this hotel.
yes, and if you book the hotel on and you download their Disneyland Paris app, because every park now has an app that you have to have, they will, if once you have your reservation in on the app, they will actually, it's not guaranteed, but it's something where you can request like what would be your favorite movie or favorite theme that you would like to have in your room. So I tried it the second time and I just selected Beauty and the Beast because we had already had a Tangled room and it worked out. They gave us the Beauty and the Beast room, so it was really nice. And it's just on the app. It's not like something special that you really have to do. It's just kind of, and if they again have it available, they can give that to you.
That
So
is so
that's nice. That's fun.
nice. I love that they even put that
Yes.
option in there. I just realized you're wearing your
Yeah.
Disneyland Paris shirt. I love it. You
Yes.
came dressed for
Yes, I
the
did.
occasion.
I know.
Um,
My husband was like, "Are you going to wear your ears?" And I was like, "No, that's too much."
I know I've thought about that before on Disney podcasts, wearing my ears. Okay, let's talk about the
All
restaurants
right.
real quick and then we'll get into the parks. So, there
Yes,
are a handful of
of
restaurants
course.
at this hotel, and it sounds like you got to eat breakfast every day at one of them. So, tell us about the restaurants that are available.
So there are two main restaurants at the Disneyland Hotel that you can dine at, and the first one is the Royal Banquet, and they have it's a buffet every time you go, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And we had the half board the first time, again meaning that you get breakfast at your hotel every morning, and then also either lunch or dinner. So we did. For the first visit, we did the breakfast there every morning. And again, we've decided on the buffet because we got some picky eaters and toddlers and babies, and I was like, I don't know if
Yeah.
what they're going to eat or how much. And the other restaurant, just I'll touch on that real quickly, is called La Table de Lumière, and it's much more like upscale, and it's like service waitress, waiter that will come to your table, and we looked at the menu because I love Beauty and the Beast as well. I was like, oh, that'd be so lovely, like,
Lumiere,
and you
that's
can
so
book the print.
cute.
Yeah, and it's because Beauty and the Beast is set in France, so they play heavily onto that, and I was looking because you can do a princess dinner at Lumiere's with Belle, and I'm not for sure all the other princesses. I'm sure it's subject to availability and change and all that. But I looked at the menu and it was very distinctly a French menu, so lots of fish and just different dishes that I knew my son would not eat. So, in all honesty, I mean, even though we travel and he lives over here in Europe, my son is still got that American palate. So, he is not a very adventurous eater yet. We're still working on it, and I'm determined that he will be.
Yes. So when you
Yeah.
say you did the half board, which was a breakfast and then a lunch or a dinner, is that wherever you want? Like, could you have gone to breakfast at Lumiere's or dinner there with what you booked?
Yeah, so we did that the first time. So the breakfast is kind of set at Royal Banquet. So if you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel specifically, do have that option to book sit down dining for lunch or dinner. And the first trip, we did book the Royal Banquet for their character dinner as well, which was part of the half board. So that
Nice.
is really, really nice. And I think especially if you have like older kids or kids that are really into characters, it's a really nice way to get that dinner in there and get to meet all the characters or princesses, because it's all kind of done in one sitting. And you can also do the half board as well. You can do reservations in the park as well. So we can get into this a little bit later when we talk about the parks, but for one of our dinners, we did a reservation at Pym's Kitchen in Avengers Campus. So you can do any of the restaurants that you want to, as long as you stick with your either lunch or dinner on the half board. And I believe if you do the full board, I think you can do, reservations for lunch and dinner if you want to. I don't think
Okay.
there's really a limit. So, yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay, finishing up with the hotel real quick. You had mentioned there are some other amenities. They have a kids club, character greetings, a small pool, a spa, and something kind of similar to Bippity Boppity Boutique. So we don't have to get into it
yeah.
all, but in general, like, is it a pool that you would want to hang out with, like, or hang out at, kind of like in Disney World, or is it just kind of like a teeny tiny more for the ambiance?
So it's definitely the second one. So my son and my husband went down there because my son does love to swim. And we kind of knew going in that it didn't have a slide. It didn't have this big theme, similar to a Disneyland or a Disney World pool, because those pools are like epic with the
Yeah,
slides and the lazy rivers and all that. So we kind of knew that going in. Plus, you have to remember that the weather in Paris is most of the time not optimal. So it's a lot, rains a lot. It is freezing cold in the winter. So it's an indoor pool, and it's just kind of like a little elegant pool would be, just a pool. So
yeah,
just that they
that's
have the
nice that
option,
they have it indoors. That makes a lot of sense because I didn't
Yeah.
really think about that.
Yep.
Like, obviously, the other Disney parks in America are in Florida and California. So you do get to utilize the
Right.
pools a lot of the year, whereas it's nice that they just have the option for indoor.
So another really fun thing about the hotel too, which is just included in your reservation and again scheduled on the Disneyland Paris app, is a royal encounter. So you can do one of these every single day. And it's basically you just log into your account on the app, or should be already logged in on your app, and you just select a time to go and meet a character. And it's really, really nice because it's just downstairs near the kids club. You kind of go in and you have this designated spot and time that to go and meet a character, and you can do this every day of your stay. We only got around to it one time just with our kids, and they don't tell you exactly what character is going to be, but royal encounter usually means it's a princess. So we got to meet Cinderella, and it was so lovely and it was so nice. We didn't have to wait in any sort of queue or line. We just showed up at our time slot and she welcomed us in and she talked with us for, 5-10 minutes. It was really probably not 10 minutes. That seems long. So about 5 minutes, and my daughter, which was so cute, she like hugged her first princess and stuff. So it was really really lovely and just really nice. And the other thing I would say too, just really briefly, the breakfast is just, in my opinion, spectacular. I mean, you're in France, right? So you're having the best croissants and pain au chocolat and cafe au laits that you will ever have. And I think that's what's really important too about Disneyland Paris, is to kind of lean into the European side, the Parisian side, and eat and drink all the things that they do very well. So pastries and again coffees and teas and hot chocolates. It's all, the spread is great. My kids loved the spread every day, every time we went. We did it again when we went the second time at Christmas. And you overlook the entrance to Disneyland Park at this particular restaurant, the Royal Banquet, and it's very fun to kind of start your day that way. And the servers are just very very nice, and they're very accommodating and very helpful. And everybody understands that you have kids, and I think that that's one of the things that just really for me makes the trip, is that they try to interact with your kids and understand that they just woke up, they might be a little cranky, they need their breakfast first before anybody can start having a good day. So,
Yes.
but anyway, yeah, so that's the last thing I'll say, is it's just it was really fun. That was one of my favorite things we every morning, was like going to the breakfast.
That sounds amazing. You're making me want to go. And overlooking the park entrance, I looked up pictures of it and it is so pink. Like it looked like there were
Yeah.
tons of pink flowers. And then is it the pink train station you're looking at right there? Or maybe the castle? I'm not sure, but everything's just like very pink in photos at the entrance.
Yes, and it's actually that's actually the hotel that you're looking at. So
Oh,
then you
okay.
go underneath. Yep, you go underneath the for the main entrance, you go underneath the hotel, and then the park gates it's actually covered because again, a lot of times it rains or snows. Not often snows, but it did this past year and it was crazy. But again, inclement weather, so they have an indoor area for you when you go in to the entrance. But yeah, it is very pink. My my sister-in-law, when we showed her picture, she's like, I want to go to Pink Disneyland.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Again, feels so like special and Parisian. Okay, let's talk
Yeah,
about how
exactly.
the parks are laid out. I believe there are
Yep.
two parks, and so are they kind of both right there, and you just kind of go right or left? That's how Universal Studios in Florida is here. But explain the two different
Okay.
parks.
That's a good explanation. And similar to like Disneyland in California, I apologize, that's my reference. I went to Disney World once when I was, I think, in my middle school. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I listen to it though. I love it. I'm like, I'm gonna plan this big trip for my family to Disney World once my kids are older.
Yeah,
Anyway, but
once
yeah.
your youngest
Um,
is over 5, so that there isn't
okay.
napping and
Yes.
they're like once they're in kind of in that kindergarten zone and they're used to staying up all day,
Yes.
I feel like it's worth doing the big trip when you can stay at the parks all day,
Yeah.
you can do fireworks and nobody's melting down.
Right.
So,
Oh, I can't even wait. I can't. I'm so excited for that. Anyway, so yes, there are two different parks, and they're not far at all. Like it's so easy to walk from one entrance to the other. So the main park is Disneyland Paris Park, and it used to be called Euro Disney, but they changed it to Disneyland Paris. And it was quite a few years ago now that they did that. And then the other park is Walt Disney Hollywood Studios. So very similar to the one at Disneyland, or excuse me, at Disney World, but just a lot smaller, of course, than that one. And they're actually turning that one into, they're going to be calling it Disney Adventure Park. And that's undergoing a huge refurbishment now as well. And that will reopen, well, it's still open, but it will debut, I should say, in 2026. So
ooh, that's
they're
exciting.
going to kind of, yeah, they're kind of doing a whole rebrand for that specific park. But yeah, so the Disneyland Paris Park is very similar to your Magic Kingdom or Disneyland California. It's going to have the castle, Main Street USA, all of that good stuff. And then the Walt Disney Studios Park is, as of now, it's quite interesting. So it's similar to the Hollywood Studios design, as far as it's got like a like backlot looking things and movie studio sets. But it also, if you walk in and you go to the left, there's Avengers Campus. It's a very small Avengers Campus compared to the one that's in Disneyland California Adventure. Um, but again, still very cool. My son loves that. But then you go to the right, and it's kind of It's called World of Pixar. That what that this land is called, and it's kind of just a big mismatch of Pixar characters. So you've got a Cars ride, and you've got a Nemo ride, and you have a Toy Story ride over here, and so it's just kind of like a big mismatch of Pixar on that side. So I'll be interested to see how they kind of utilize the new parts of the park that they're building to kind of maybe make it a little bit more cohesive. It's kind of just like a big, like, well, everybody likes this stuff, so we'll just
Yeah.
stuff it into this park.
It's like whatever didn't fit in Disneyland Paris Park, then it's all just going in the studios side.
Right, right. And they also have like the Ratatouille. So again, it's just a lot of Pixar is over there in the Walt Disney Studios park. So that's their kind of, and then again, of course, Avengers. They love that. And then there's
Yeah.
also the Tower of Terror just randomly
Just
there.
throw it in there.
So, you know, exactly. So it's kind of a bit of a mismatch, which I feel like is why they're doing the renovations and trying to kind of get a more cohesive theme to this park. So, but again, it's still very fun to go to. Like I said, my son had a blast, and they've got
Yeah.
unique rides that you don't have anywhere else there as well. So that's really cool too.
Okay, let's start in Disneyland Paris and talk a little bit about the castle because I did some of my own research and I realized that this is one of the only castles that you can really explore quite a bit. Like some of the other ones are a little closed off or you have to have a reservation for the fancy dinner or whatever. And it looked like this is really cool to explore with the stained glass and there's even like a dragon in the bottom. So tell us a little bit about the
Yes.
castle.
Yes. So the castle is beautiful. It is so much bigger than our castle at Disneyland California. Obviously, that was Disneyland's the original. So this one, and it does have just that beautiful European Parisian flair to it. It's gorgeous. It's pink and blues and purples and I know the quintessential like Disney royal colors, but it is so unique in the sense that when you walk inside, you can go up and you can explore. You can walk around. They've got stained glass up there, so very much reminiscent of a cathedral or a church inside of Europe, and it's showcasing like different scenes in Disney movies, specifically like princess movies. And the most unique thing about it is the dragon. Yes, it's very exciting. My son loved the dragon. And you go, instead of going up, you go down into the castle, into his cavern. So it's on you get to it from the outside of the castle. So you have the entrance to the castle and you kind of go to the left if you're looking at the castle. And he has his own lair. It's called Le Tanière du Dragon or something like that. And it just means the lair of the dragon. And you go in, and I was a little bit worried at first because I didn't know like how spooky are we going here? Like how intense is this dragon going
Right.
to be? So, but we decided we took our kids in, and I'm like, it's Disneyland, it can't be that bad. And it is so cool. It's got smoke, and it looks like he's in like his own little nest area. He moves. This dragon I would say he's kind of a scary dragon. He's not like a friendly looking Pete's dragon or something like
Yeah.
that, or like a dragon from like How to Train Your Dragon. Like he's a legit like scary dungeon dragon. And he opens his mouth and he's got sound effects and all kinds of stuff. And it like I said, he moves his head around. And I would say it's kind of like it's not necessarily a show, but it's kind of like it goes off every, I would say, like 5 to 7 minutes. You would be able to see the dragon. So like if you come in during the middle, you just stay for a little bit longer and you can see him like wake up and move around and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really unique. It was really different. But my kids loved that too. We wanted to go
Yeah.
back and see the dragon again. So
I love
yeah,
that the castle
love
is like
that.
its own experience. So just like don't miss that. If
Mm-hmm.
you go there, like walk around, explore, go see the
Right.
dragon. I was watching a YouTube video on
Yep.
it last night, and actually, one of the guys that helped with all that stained glass, which it really is beautiful stained glass. You guys should look it up because it's these
Yeah.
gorgeous pictures of scenes from Disney movies. And one of the guys who helped design it all actually came out of retirement for it. And he had previously designed stained glass for Notre Dame and Westminster Abbey. So I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder it's such amazing stained glass.
That is
And
such a cool story. I love that.
There are obviously Disney's all over the world, Disney parks, but this castle's the only one with a dragon, so that's pretty exciting. Staying in
Right.
Disneyland Paris for just a little bit longer, what are some of your favorite rides or restaurants within this park?
So what we tried to do with our first stay or our first trip is we tried to kind of focus on those rides that we don't have in the United States or that are so different, over here versus, the US parks. So the some of the rides that we really, really loved, we loved the Phantom Manor, which is their version of the Haunted Mansion. And it's again, it's an American theme. It's a kind of a Wild West theme to the Haunted Mansion. So very cool, very unique story there. And then they have an Indiana Jones ride, but it's called the Temple of Peril, and it is a roller coaster ride. It's kind of like a mini like roller coaster ride. It's very different than the one in California. So that one was really cool, kind of like a mine cart type of a ride. They had the Mysteries of the Nautilus ride, which is their submarine ride. So in California, it is Nemo. The submarine is like a Nemo ride. And here it was like the Nautilus, which was interesting. It was different. And they also had Alice's Labyrinth, which was just a walk-through maze, and anybody could walk through it and kind of just explore. They had little things moving and you could explore like the Queen's Castle, and it was really cute. It was like a little maze for the kids to wander through and kind of get that energy out, which was helpful for us because we had the littles. And my son loves a maze. He likes to go in and see if he can figure out how to get out. So that one was really unique and fun. Their carousel is called Le Carousel du Lancelot instead of King Arthur. So they have that French flair to it. But again, a lot of the rides are very similar to the ones that we have in the US parks. Their Pirates of the Caribbean ride is super fun. It is a little bit different as well, but again, still that like familiar ride and song and stuff like that. One thing that they do that you have to keep in mind is that a lot of the rides will be in French and in English. So you'll be riding like the Pirates of the Caribbean, and you'll hear your familiar the Pirates of the Caribbean song, but the pirates will be speaking French, to
Funny.
each other. Or
Yeah.
some parts of the song will switch to French, because again, you have to remember you're in France, so
Yeah.
it's built for the European culture.
Well, and that kind of like
But yeah,
adds
those
to it.
were
I
kind
feel
of
like if you're coming over there as an American, it's like you kind of want it. It's funny. I'm like, I don't really want Indiana Jones in Paris. I want it to be like all Parisian, but they're also catering to
yeah,
the Europeans that want some of that
right.
American Disney vibe. So I get why they have both.
Exactly. And my son's most favorite ride was the Hyperspace Mountain. So it is just Space Mountain, but theirs is always themed to Star Wars. So hyperspace being the Star Wars reference. And it was so great. It was so good. It was so fun. I'm kind of a motion sick person, so going on the like even Disney roller coasters, I'm always like, oh, okay, I got this, I can do it. But it was really fun. It was very worth it. So fun for him. And something that we took advantage of that I'm assuming that you can do in the other parks as well. I'm almost positive, but it's a rider switch
Yes,
that they have,
definitely.
like a rider
Uh-huh.
switch program.
Writer
Oh my
swap,
gosh,
they call it here. Yeah.
that was totally a game changer for us as when we went the second time and realized it and utilized it more because, my son and my husband would wait, the 30, 40 minutes, whatever. And then they would come out the exit and hand me like a little ticket. And then my son and I just got to go right back through the exit and get back on the ride. So that was really, really nice this time that we took advantage of that. The Big Thunder Mountain ride there is also in Frontierland, but it's on its own island. So it was a lot longer. It was a lot more intense. It was a really good one. It was really fun. Yeah,
I'm sure most of you listening already know this, but just real quick for Rider Swap, it's for parents that have little kids that they're trying to tend to, so you can't both go on the ride with your kids. So basically, you just tell
exactly.
them when you're getting on that you're going to do a rider swap. And when your party gets off, another parent gets to go with any child they want. And actually, sometimes at Disney World, they would let like two of our kids go. They'd just be like, you two both get on. Like, because we had two older kids and one little kid, which is really sweet. And I'm sure it doesn't happen all the
Amazing.
time, but
Yeah.
very nice. While we're talking about all these
For sure.
rides, do they have their version of a lightning lane or a fast pass situation?
They do. Theirs is called Premier Access. So, how you do it, and it's actually very simple compared to I have watched a few YouTube videos about the new Disney World stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder there's like travel planners specifically for Disney because this is so complicated.
Yeah, it's getting out of control
But
over here in America.
yeah, right? Oh my gracious. But anyway, so in at Disneyland Paris, it's called Premier Access. So you can purchase a ultimate Premier Access pass, and that one will get you go through the Premier Access line for every single ride for one time for the day,
That's so
if
much
that makes
better.
sense.
Yeah, just you
Yeah.
get each ride
So
once that has the option for it.
exactly. So not every single ride will have the option for Premier Access, very similar to Disneyland and Disney World. And they will let you know before you purchase like what rides are available for the Premier Access pass. So you purchase it for the day per person. So it can get quite pricey. I believe depending on the day, it can range from like 115 euros per person to we saw, I think at Christmas it was like 250
And that's on
euros per
top of
person.
you've already paid for your park pass and your hotel if you need to, and that's like to purchase the fast pass is the extra cost.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, but there's also the other option to just purchase per ride. So, for example, there's a roller coaster you want to go on and it has a 90-minute wait and you're like, I just don't have the time for that. You can just go in and purchase just for that ride. And a lot of times it'll be 5 to 15 euros per person, depending on, again, the popularity, time of year, how many people are at the park that day,
So can
that
you
kind of
do that
thing.
in real
Um,
time, like on your app?
Yes, you can do it in real time. We did it for the Web Slingers ride at the Walt Disney Studios park. And because the ride, by the time we had gotten back over there to ride it, was now at like 70 minutes. And my son was like, "Ugh, I really want to ride this ride, but we've got two other little people that needed to eat and nap." And so anyway, we just purchased for my son and I to go. And I think it was only at that time, I want to say it was like 7 euros a piece. So again, it's not ideal. I wish we didn't have to pay for it, and I wish it would be like just, the old days where you got those free fast passes, but it works really well. It
Yeah, that's
really
good to
does.
know. I like that. It
And
sounds simpler. I
yeah,
like that system. And it's
so
smart to offer it on the app in real time because it's like once you're all the way in the park and you're
yep,
standing in front of that ride and your kid's right there, you're like, fine, $7, whatever. Okay, let's go.
exactly. Exactly. And it will tell you like you could have picked a time to come back to if that's something that if you wanted to go if right then or you could have picked a time to go, later in the afternoon if you wanted to as well. And because they have that Premier Access Pass and because it is really really pricey and there's really no other option to skip the line, we found that the lines were never really crazy outrageously long. So I would say the longest we waited in line was probably for like a ride for the whole family, like a, Small World or something like that, was probably, I would say the longest we waited was like 40 minutes. And it was really, busy both times. We went around the Easter holiday the first time, and then of course we went around the holidays, which is I feel like always busy at the Disney parks. And 40 minutes I thought wasn't too bad. We never had to wait in like a 2-hour line or anything like that. I think it kind of keeps the standby lines just moving.
Yeah.
Because there's not like a bunch of people in that Premier Access line. There really isn't because it costs so much more money. Um, but again, if you do purchase it, then it's very fast. You're just like front of the line basically. So
Okay, awesome. Good to know.
yeah.
Before we move on to the other park and some of your favorite things in there, I just wanted to mention that one thing that kept coming up in a couple different blog posts and YouTube videos I watched about Disneyland Paris was that the best restaurant in either of the parks, everybody says is Walt's. So I don't know if you ate there or if you saw it or
Mm.
if you heard of it, but I just wanted to put that out there in case people are popping over to Disneyland Paris. You might want to try to get into Walt's.
Yes. Oh my gosh, if you can, that would be so great. We did not. Just again, because we had our little ones and as much as we travel and as much as we get them on airplanes and trains and taxis and all kinds of things, sitting down at a restaurant is still like such a challenge.
Yes, it will get easier, I
And I'm like, guys,
promise.
it's so good to know. I'm always like, guys, we do this every day. what does it
Yeah.
matter if
We
we're
eat
sitting in
three
a
meals
restaurant?
every day.
Totally, totally. So, I think for that experience as well, I think it is definitely like a dining experience. So, and I believe you can still take children. They might have you say like 6 and over. Sometimes they'll do that. But no, I also have heard that it is a fantastic restaurant and really like nostalgic for Disney fans, especially, if you're really into that Disney history and Walt Disney himself specifically and things like that. So no, that's definitely on my kind of on my bucket list for next time. If my husband and I maybe can sneak away for a weekend.
Okay, sounds like it's more of like an
Yes.
elevated experience. So just kind of keep that in mind if you have, depending on the ages of your kids and what's available. Okay, let's
Right,
hop over to the
exactly.
other park, Walt Disney Studios Park or Hollywood Studios Park. What were some of your favorite rides or restaurants in there?
They've got some really cool, unique rides there, and that was some of my son's favorites. So they do have the Avengers Campus, and their main ride there, they've got the web slingers, and then they also have this one called Avengers Flight Force, and it is Iron Man and Captain Marvel, and it's a crazy dark, it's a dark indoor roller coaster, and it is a rethemed rock and roller coaster, and except now it's Avengers, and it is super intense. My son and my husband went on that 2 times. They loved it, thought it was amazing. The queue is really interesting as well because as you walk through, there have like a talking Iron Man there, like a life-size talking Iron Man. He is speaking in French, so just keep that in mind, but there are English subtitles, and then Captain Marvel will be speaking in English. So they did a really good job with the retheme on that one, and it's very fun, very thrilling. They also have another one of their most popular rides is called Crush's Coaster. It's nowhere else in the Disney parks, and it is it is again an indoor roller coaster. You are riding on the back of a turtle shell, specifically like Crush the turtle from Finding Nemo. And not only are you going on this indoor roller coaster, but your turtle shell is also spinning. So it is quite an experience as well. Again, my son absolutely loved it. This one was a little bit intense for me, but so unique, so well themed, so fun. It definitely felt like, you were surfing down the EAC, like they
I
say in the
saw a
movie. So
video of this
it,
one and it looked so cute. It literally, it's like a little, it's not like there's 8 cars of the turtle shells. It's like one turtle shell that's running through the
yes,
coaster and it just looks like you're seriously spinning on the back of a turtle. It's so cute. And I like love sea turtles. So
yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I would probably also feel a little dizzy after that one, but I feel like I would have to go on it.
It was so fun. And that one does get the longest line. So that one, I would say, pretty frequently has about a 90-minute standby line. But if you stay on Disney property, similar again to the US, you get what's called magic hours. And so you actually get 1 whole hour in the morning before anybody else gets to go into the parks. So that's such a perk and such a benefit of staying on the Disney site, rope drop, if you will. And that's kind of what we did with Crush's Coaster the 2 times we went.
I saw they also have Ratatouille, which of course they have to. It looked almost identical to the one we have over here, but I mean, the movie takes place in France, so they have to have Ratatouille.
I think it's almost identical as far as the one in the US, but it is in French. Again, because even though it's in French, you know the story, you know what's going on. It never really took away, in my opinion, from any experience. So
And then share about the restaurant you went to here because I looked it up. It looked pretty cool.
So we did the restaurant Pim's Kitchen. And again, this is a buffet style. And this one was supposed to be like quote unquote American style food. So they had burgers and fries and stuff. So I was like, okay, my son will be, he'll be great with this one. And it was very well done. It was very good. So the Pym particles are what Ant-Man uses to either grow or shrink,
And it's
from the
called,
Marvel
or it's
universe.
spelled Pyms, Pims. And it, yeah, keep going.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so they've got really, really large burgers that they cut. So they'll cut it kind of like a pizza, or they've got really, really tiny burgers like sliders that you can grab, similar with French fries and like chicken tenders and things like that for the kids. And it was just really fun. We had a big giant pretzel that they brought to our table to kind of start with. And the restaurant was very well themed. They had all the different like Marvel, Pym, Ant-Man designs and stuff on the walls and things. So that was pretty cool. We
Yeah, this
really
came
liked
up
that
in one
restaurant
of
too.
my videos as well, and it is so cute that everything's like either supersized or miniature. I think I saw a salad with like one
Yeah.
huge crouton, and
Yes.
then it kind of looks like a lab. Like a lot of the stuff is in like beakers and just kind of looked like Ant-Man's lab or whatever. I'm not really into all of these
Yeah.
superheroes, so I don't really know all the terminology, but it looked like a cute
Oh,
restaurant.
yes. So you can actually order drinks and they'll come in like a little beaker style glass. So that's kind of fun too. It's a really fun restaurant. It was great for kids. It wasn't too long. That's something to keep in mind when you are there. European time frames as far as dining and things are a little bit longer than what you're used to. Kind of it's because again, they want that experience of dining.
Anything else about the Disney Studios park you wanted to share?
We did this one character experience with Spider-Man, and it was called the Hero Training Center. And it was like hands down one of the best character experiences that we've ever done. So it was just me and my son. My husband had taken my girls back to nap at the hotel. It's just a queue that you join when you're in the park. You say you want to, go meet Spider-Man, or there's another experience where you can meet another Marvel superhero. They don't specify, they just say another Marvel superhero. But my son really wanted to meet Spider-Man, so we put our names, onto the virtual queue, and they just call you back when your time is ready. They give you a good amount of time so that you're not like, say you're in Disneyland and you're not going to be able to make it, right? So they do give you a good heads up and notice. But yeah, we went in and you just wait for a little bit once your time is up. And I didn't know what to expect because it was kind of one of the first actual characters that we met on our first trip. And they asked us if we spoke French or English. So we went into the English line and we got in there, and it was very well themed. Looked like you were in like a web Spider-Man lab. He met Maverick, my son, and I could have sworn that this character was actually Spider-Man. He sounded like Spider-Man, he moved like a Spider-Man, and it was just so immersive and so cool. So the hero training part of it was he like helped Maverick with his punches and kicks and like webs and all kinds of things. And it was just so magical. He just was over the moon that he met the real Spider-Man. They got to take some photos together. They did cool effect ones, like jumping up in the air with, your spider webs and stuff like that. So that was just a really, really awesome experience that we did that I would recommend if you have a big either Marvel or specifically Spider-Man fan.
That's really cool. I love that lengthy kind of character experience that they have for the boys. I mean, I know it's not always the boys at
Yeah.
all, but that's really cool because I feel like there's so many princess experiences and meet and greets and all the stuff. So it's cool that
Right.
they're bringing something for little boys as well. You said there was like a little area that's kind of like Disney Springs or Disney Village. So what is that like? And is it worth spending time at?
Right now, Disney Village, again, which is, like you said, very similar to the Disney Springs area, is under a lot of refurbishment.
Okay.
So, full disclosure, it is very, very heavily with construction going on. They do have a lot of similar things that we have in the US. There's Rainforest Cafe, Earl of Sandwich, the big Disney stores, a movie theater. They have McDonald's.
Funny.
Lot Yeah, lots of things that you would recognize. They also have a Lego store, which is really cute. We went in there and my son had brought his passport. He has a little Lego passport, and every time you go to a Lego store, which I didn't know this before moving here, but I'm sure they have it everywhere, is they give you a little passport and then they'll do stamps at every Lego store you go to. They'll have like a unique stamp. So they were so sweet with him. He pulled out his passport and he's like, "Do you have a Disneyland Paris stamp?" And they stamped it Disneyland Paris. And so very cute, very, very something fun for him. But yeah, I mean, if you are staying there, I definitely think it's worth it to go and grab some food. They also have a Five Guys. So we went to a Five Guys because finding an American burger in the Netherlands is quite difficult. So we were super happy to see that. So we went there one night on our last trip and
Awesome.
grabbed some dinner. As far as if you're, not going to the parks and just thinking you're going to hang out in Disney Village, I probably wouldn't recommend that. Yeah.
Good to know. I saw some videos that the parades are amazing. So did you hit up any of the parades?
We did. We actually did a reserved seating for that parade. My kids do not like to wait for a parade. I don't even really like to wait for the parade. Where you're sitting on the curb for 2 hours and trying to save your spot. So we thought, you know what, we'll try this reserved seating. We'll try it and see how that goes. And it was fantastic. We just showed up about, I'd say like 15 minutes before, 20 minutes before the parade started. We had this whole entire section of just reserved for the people who paid for it. And we had our like several benches to ourselves so my kids could sit down. There was nobody in front of us and we got to watch the parade and it was lovely. It was very cute, very, very good. It lots of songs and lots of characters. It was one of the most character filled parades. Like you had everybody involved and everybody there. The song was cute. It was in French, but again, it kind of adds to being in Disneyland Paris. And it wasn't very long either. It was a nice amount for my kids. I would say, just like a typical like 15, 20-minute parade. So but beautiful floats too. Like they had very large floats that were moving and there was a dragon at one point, the Maleficent dragon. That was really cool. So yeah, it was just really fun. And then we were close enough that they got to like wave to the characters, and the characters waved back. So that was super cool as well.
Let's briefly touch on what the holidays are like there and how it was decorated a little different and what that felt like when you went the second time.
It was very cute. It was very well done, very themed. Of course, it's Disney, so they have lots of decorations on Main Street. They had like little statues of Mickey and Minnie in the front that was all in their holiday outfits. Something that was different was they don't have a lot of holiday themed like items to purchase, like food wise. They definitely have like merchandise, t-shirts, sweatshirts, ornaments, things like that you can purchase. But as far as like food theming goes, that's not something that they really do. So there was only like maybe one Christmas cookie that you could purchase in the whole park, which I thought was, I was kind of surprised by that. There's still a Christmas parade, which we did get to see as well, which was super cute at night. That one was beautiful. And then they have like little shows throughout the day as well. Christmassy that they do, and they do have Santa also at Pierre Noel at the end of their Christmas parade as well.
Fun. Love it. You had mentioned in your notes that there are a couple interesting cultural differences that might be helpful to know, especially for Americans traveling there, setting expectations for cast members, language barriers, and things like that. So, if you just want to touch on a couple of those so people are prepared if they plan this trip.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is mostly for North American listeners, United States, Canada, that kind of thing. Our culture in the United States is very focused on customer service, and it is how our society works, basically. So going to over to Europe, just in general, it's something to keep in mind that culturally, that's just not something that they really do. Not to say that cast members are not friendly or are not, attentive, but there will be times where it doesn't come off a little bit rude in some ways. So, like, for example, I had asked a question about if the dragon was going to be open later or not. And he told me that he didn't know and just walked away. Right.
I don't know,
So
lady.
different things like that where you're like, yeah, he was just like, I don't know. And in your expectations of at Disney, like, you're assuming that they're gonna like, oh, like over explain and everything like that. So that's kind of what I mean just by like setting expectations. It's just like it's like a cultural thing, right? Like he truly just didn't know. I think that took me back a little bit. But again, like the service at the hotel was lovely. The every server we had was very nice and lovely. So just being aware that that could be something that surprises you. And then the other thing that was really hard for us as well, especially this last time, is the amount of smoking.
Mm.
So again, keeping in mind that Europeans do generally smoke more than Americans, they are so healthy in so many ways besides the smoking, right? So, and there are designated smoking areas within the park for smokers. Unfortunately, most of the people do not abide by that. And so you are just around smoke all the time. So if that's something that you're really sensitive to, I mean, that's something to keep in mind. Cast members generally don't seem to care that people are smoking outside of the smoking areas. So I think that's just another thing where, again, culturally, that doesn't bother them, right? That's just something that's part of everyday life, where to us, it's very, very different. But again, if you're going into it and you're knowing that things are a little different, and not to have those same expectations and to just kind of enjoy it as it is and within the frame of the European culture, it makes it a little better.
Good to know. Good to know all those tips. On each of your trips, you stayed for 3 nights and 4 days. Do you think this is a good amount of time for others thinking about this trip? Could people knock out the parks in a day and just have some fun? What do you think about how much time you need there?
I think for us, it was great because again, you have that option to go back and forth from the parks at any time, and they are so close, especially if you stay at the Disneyland Hotel, so you're just like within 5 minutes of each of the parks. So I think that that's a good amount of time. Obviously, you can go longer. I have had family members that do just a day trip from Paris, and they loved it and got to do a lot of stuff then too. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. I think it is a fun addition to your Paris trip. Like you were saying, like if you're in Europe already and you're a big Disney fan and you kind of have that free day when you're in Paris, or even if you're in another European country too, like from Germany or London, it's a pretty quick train ride down to Disneyland Paris. They are smaller parks. They're not these big, massive Disney World parks. They're pretty small, and I think especially if you get like that premier access pass, that you'd be able to do a lot of stuff within even a day trip or 2 days.
Okay, Brittany, I'm actually sad to wrap this one up, but if someone out there is considering a trip to Paris or Europe, what is it about Disneyland Paris that would make you say, just book it?
So again, if you're a Disney fan, it's definitely something that you want to see. It is so unique, it's so special, and it really just gives you that sense of Disney magic with a European flair. So it's just a really fun experience for kids. It's kind of fun for them to see, Mickey Mouse dressed up in his Parisian outfit or Minnie Mouse dressed up in her Parisian outfit, and just get to enjoy Disney in a different way. So I say go for it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today and for all of your knowledge. And thank you for being a Trip Tales listener all the way over in the Netherlands. It was great to get to know you.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love it.
That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.